The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Paranormal Concept right here on Parasearch UK Radio with your host, Paul Rook.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to the next edition of Parasearch. I'm sure it's that one I'm doing tonight. I'm joined in the studio by my ever lovely Kerry Greenaway. Hello, Kerry.
Hello, love. All right.
Yeah, not too bad. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well indeed.
Have you had a paranormal week?
I kind of had a weird week. We had stuff going off in the house the other day, which was quite strange. But it was the kids freaking out. You know what kids are like. So it's like, oh, that was so stupid. Go back to bed. And that was going off the other night. They were all getting a bit freaked out. And
what was happening then?
Oh, we was having apparently a cupboard door opened on its own, and there was bangings going on, and then there was Ryder was playing on a game, and he's got it was going on about a static gun. You'd understand what he's talking about more than me, and he wasn't in a game with friends. He was on it just playing the game, and he reckons a voice came over through the static when he was firing his gun. I was like, "That's you've been on it too long, mate."
Yeah, that's it. He needs sleep.
Yeah, it's time for you to go to bed is what it's telling you. And, stuff like that was going on in the house. And they were getting freaked out upstairs. They were scaring themselves more than they needed to.
Yeah.
And then I went, right, that's it. All gadgets are off. You're going to bed. Did the mum thing. And then he called me a Satanist. So we went into a theological discussion about activity and what it logically was. And, he threw a strop and sent me to bed.
Okay,
I was like, I beg your pardon. You're sending me to bed?
Yeah.
I was like, you're getting far too sassy. Excuse me. Yeah, it was quite fun that night. Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, dear.
Needless to say, he had his gadgets confiscated and got sent to bed himself.
That's it. Get him on the Ouija board. That'd really scare him for life.
Particularly when I'm moving it.
Yeah, that's it. I remember I'd done that years and years and years ago. My friend's little girl wanted to do one. So I said, okay, we'll do one. I'll do the board with her. So we've done the board and I was pushing it all the way around. And I scared her so much. She just didn't want to go to bed that night.
So easy done at that age, isn't it? You shouldn't. It's not ethical. Just like I say, we're not condoning that kind of behaviour for your children.
No, but it's put her off playing with the Ouija board. Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
So it done its job.
It only did its job, didn't it? So I just think a lot of it was logical. He'd been on the game a while, so, hearing things is not uncommon. And it probably was me shouting it is what actually he heard.
Yeah.
Telling him to go to bed. Leo was kicking the door of the wardrobe. That's probably why the door opened.
Yeah.
The banging could have been next door, running up the stairs, and just logical things. Really, I think it was. I think it could all have been explained away because I wasn't feeling anything.
Mm.
But then I was a bottle of wine down, so.
Oh, just one bowl.
Just one.
It was a big bowl. It was a big bowl.
A liter. It was like a gallon, but
Yeah.
Gallon.
The size of the barrel's about that big, yeah.
Everyone thinks I'm such an alcoholic. I just do not understand it.
Well,
taking another sip of wine.
In the chat room, we've got Kaz. Hello, Kaz. And I don't know anyone else because it's not come up with anyone. So definitely say hi to us all and join in the chat. So, right, tonight's show is about haunted artefacts, Kerry wanted me to change it slightly.
Only because everybody knows so much about haunted paintings. And yes, they're worth talking about. I'm not saying they're not. But there are so many other interesting things in regards to... when I look at artwork, I don't just think paintings. I see sculptures, I see architecture, I see all sorts of things with art. Because I think you can encompass quite a lot of things under the art banner, you know. And I think when an artist is working, they almost go into, in whatever form their art takes shape, it's almost like a very meditative process, isn't it?
It is, and they also put emotion into it, some of them. You know, but I don't know. I mean, when the thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to the artwork was portals in artwork. Simply because going back probably about 5 or 6 years now, we had a paranormal investigation come in by a 15-year-old girl. And she said that she's been experiencing noises from the bedroom, footsteps down the hallways, lots of banging, knocking, lights swinging. And we said that we'd go down and do the investigation. And when we got there, she said that her mum was also taken into Southend mental health unit because she just couldn't cope with the activity that was going on. And she was an artist, and she actually painted this painting. And our medium picked up on the portal in the painting that was bringing forward these spirits that were creating the issues. Her mum also had hundreds of books, like writing books, that she just write random names in, and in probably about every other page or so, you'd have my name, you'd have the rest of my team's name in the book. She also was able to draw our logo that we only agreed on a week before.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, just because there was this portal in the painting, and I don't know why or how that could have been created. That's why I wanted to talk about haunted artwork, as in that aspect of it, rather than the anguished man and the spirits and the energy and stuff like that. It's just the portals that interested me.
Well, I have to say, going back to pretty much what I was saying, I think when you look at when you're working art, I know when I work with my intuitive pieces, you're not sort of sitting there chatting away to your mate while you're making it. You know what I mean? You're concentrating on an intention or a person that you're creating for. Yeah. And you kind of get yourself into a mental, almost like I say, meditative mindset. So you're almost like allowing yourself to be open, if you want to use that term. And I would think most artists work in that way. They get themselves into they call it the zone. You know what I mean? That space of creativity where your imagination and your logic brain is sort of put to one side. Your day-to-day reality existence is put to one side. So you're focused 100% on the piece that you're creating, whether, like I said, it doesn't matter how that's, manifesting. It could be anything, but you are getting yourself into that zone of that. You're releasing your mind. So you're actually allowing whatever to channel through, whether that be imagination, whether that be, your creativity to flow. Yeah. So when you look at that state, that's not a lot different to how you work when you are actually setting out an intention and creating a spell. You know what I mean? Or something along those lines.
So you see what I mean?
It's just a way of manifestation. So inadvertently, if she has some form of psychic ability, it could be a possibility.
Yeah.
That she's channeling, I suppose, we could call it, her creativity or her imagination, whatever way you want to look at it, that she's actually allowing a spirit to come forward and maybe open a doorway through what she's creating. I don't know. psychologically, that's probably a load of crap. But, you know, it's a way of looking at it from a spiritual angle.
So it could also be the fact that she intended to open up a portal and just painted one.
I don't think it's an intention process. I think when you're creating a piece of art, that the intent is to create the picture, not to open a portal to the spirit world. I think there's a non-intention there. So it's a non-intention creation. Other than
so
what's evolving.
What about looking at it from a spirit's point of view? If they wanted to get, say a spirit is trapped this side and they wanted to get back to the other side, could they not sort of take over the body in a meditative state and create the portal as she's painting? Yes, I think that that answers that question.
No, I'm thinking as to why a spirit would think that. Actually, I don't think.
I mean, I personally wouldn't. I personally wouldn't know.
I'd have to ponder that side of it more. But if you were wanting a way to come forward without any restriction, you could influence an artist in that mental state to create something. Or a spirit that might be attached to the artist would then inadvertently get attached to the piece of artwork. But I wouldn't necessarily think, oh my goodness, Paul. Yeah, that's a thought. But
this is what I was thinking, because I mean, I know we've discussed haunted paintings and dolls and stuff in the past where the spirit has attached itself, but we're actually now progressing that from a spirit attaching itself to the painting to be an actual portal to this world and the next.
The whole concept of this whole painting thing, though, I think it goes deeper. I think it's not. I see it on the spiritual side where you're creating the creative mode, the channeling kind of scenario, but I also see it from a different perspective, which is actually more of a cultural mindset, I suppose you believe. If you think back, in 1807, I believe it was, Oscar Wilde wrote a book called The Picture of Dorian Gray.
Yep.
Well known.
Yeah,
and it's culturally, it goes through, a lot of people know about this.
Yeah.
And the effect a painting can have on a person, and that link between a person and a picture kind of sets the mode, as it were. It really did trigger the imagination on that. That's one thing Oscar Wilde was really, really good at.
But
so I wonder...
Didn't that inspire the fact that the Victorians also believed that when they took a picture of a dead person, it caught their soul in the picture?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's a cultural thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it becomes more of a cultural thing from a psychological point of view. Now, I'm not an expert on this side of it, so I'm throwing ideas out. We're brainstorming, basically. I think we're going with this. But I'm just thinking of it from more of a psychological, cultural point of view, rather than an artist is actually creating a portal. I'm wondering if it's a deep set belief system from that psychological, cultural point of view, that pictures do hold this kind of power. You know, I mean, Dorian Gray made a deal where he stayed young and was able to fulfill every form of lifestyle he wanted and it not show on his body. But the picture did. The picture was the one that aged and got old. And, you know what I mean? So that was what the premise of the book was. Now, if that's going back to that, then you go into the Victorian view of death and, you know, taking pictures of photographs of people that have passed and, you know, the belief of, you know, it kept them sort of like in the family, as it were. So you've got this kind of thing going on with the link between spirit, effectively, and pictures. And it's just sort of like, do you not think it's just transmuted into paintings now?
See, I don't know. It's almost like it's reverting back to paintings. Because obviously you've gone from painting, which is Dorian Gray, Oscar Wilde thing, then you've gone on photographic pictures, and now we're going back to paintings again.
True. But I just think it's the way that somebody's manifested that creation, you know? You've missed the psychological bit, Ashley. Oh, sorry, Ashley's in the chat room. He said, "What's up, party people? What did I miss?" I went,
everything. You missed the whole show.
You missed the show. We're just about to finish.
Yeah. So good night from me.
No, I think it would be any picture.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Because what I found a case of a painting that was done from a photograph.
Yeah.
And that picture had activity or alleged activity around it, but it was a painting and of the picture, you know, of a photograph. So it sort of like, I think it's the fact that it's not necessarily the medium it's done in, it's the fact that you're looking at it. It's a physical representation of a person or a scene. Generally, it's people or a person or representation of a person. You know, when you think of the Scream.
I wonder if there's any reported activity that has been attributed back to a Victorian death picture.
I didn't come across any, I'll be honest with you. Most of the ones I came across were just paintings. So I did come across one which is called Painting of a Headless Man, which was taken from a photograph that the artist then went and actually painted the picture. And then that allegedly had activity around it, but not anything linked to a death picture per se, like the ones you're talking about.
I was just wondering whether or not then that, because obviously the artist was creating that picture, you know, and he was so much concentrating on the details and stuff, that maybe she. Okay, she. As you said, went into sort of that meditative state and with emotions, and because I know there's a lot of painters out there that will paint emotionally.
Yeah.
So would they transfer that over to the painting, thus creating a haunted painting?
I would say that's a possibility, but I wouldn't say it's actually the emotion that's actually imprinted. I would think it's the expression that then recreates that within somebody looking at a painting. And then again, when you talk about certain paintings, I think there's a level of expectation, particularly with well-known paintings. When people look at this painting, they're known to feel sick. So you tend to find people then start feeling sick when they look at the painting, whether or not they do feel sick or not. It's because they've heard stories about that. You know, people, that I think we underestimate the psychological impact of a visual representation that can kick into what you've heard about.
Yeah, it's almost like a visual, hysterical type of situation. Yeah,
almost that kind of thing. You hear the stories, you go and see it. You know what I mean?
And then you feel sick
and
yourself.
Then you feel sick, or you have that. You know, you have that physical response to it. But we all know as well that even without a well-known art, you know, without a well-known necessarily situation surrounding a piece of work, shall we say, then you could get a response from a picture.
Okay.
Because I went to the Canterbury Museum, and they have a picture on the wall of a little girl holding some flowers before a door. And there was no alleged haunting, you know, or activity surrounding this painting at all. I had to buy it. And I bought this painting. Well, I didn't. I bought a print of the painting because clearly the painting was a lot more expensive than I could afford. So I bought a print of said painting. Now, I've got no problem with this. I love this painting or this picture. I love it. I really, really love it. And I don't know why. I love it, and I've looked at it many times and thought, why do I like this painting so much? You know what I mean? What is it about the painting that I really, really love so much? But that has triggered an emotional response in me.
Yeah.
But I can't explain that. I have no idea why, but I knew I had to have a copy of that painting. And I've still got it to this day in my house. It's still hanging in my hallway. You know what I mean? And I got that years and years ago, and I still love that painting. And I've got no idea why. But whatever it was about that painting, something in that painting triggered a emotional response in me. And I know that that painting has got no alleged activity or, you know, story behind it. It was just a picture of a guy that got painted because their dad loved him. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know, the painter, you could argue the painter translated that love into it, and that's why I felt it. I don't believe that. I think I just loved the painting for whatever reason. It could be the light play, it could be the way it's done. I don't know. I can't explain it, but all I know is that it triggered an emotional response within me that made me want to go and have a copy of this painting. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
haunted painting, and you've got a hype surrounding that haunted painting.
Yeah.
That is more than likely on a psychological level to have an emotional trigger in people than anything else. Artwork is well known, whether in whatever form it takes, to give you an emotional response. That is the definition of artwork. That's why people love art so much. Is in whatever form it takes, it triggers an emotional response in whatever level that be.
And it connects with you.
And it connects.
Yeah.
Whether or not it does open a portal, I've yet to come across a painting that I honestly feel is a portal.
Okay. Without
being able to totally discount a psychological effect. Should we put it that way? Yes, we'll put it that way.
Yeah.
That's very diplomatically put.
Okay, so moving on slightly. I know you said earlier that you do loads of research and never actually gets used. What other research?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ashley. So I was thinking a little outside the box. I wanted to see, because as I say, we've done haunted pictures, like paintings, quite a lot. They get covered quite a lot.
Yep.
There's some really, really well knowns that we cover or get talked about on a regular basis. So I wanted to kind of stay away from those a little bit. So I was thinking, okay, let's have a look at art installations, or let's think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah,
where
let's do that.
Would we see artwork that is possibly having activity surrounding it? So there wasn't an awful lot in regard to art installations, and I think the reason for that is they get taken down quite quickly. They're sort of up for a while in an art gallery. They have their moment of fame. They get bought by a collector, and then it's sort of done. I'm thinking Tracy Emin's bedroom, you know, that kind of kind of thing. And then they tend to go to private collectors or taken down because they've done their job, you know. And I couldn't find any. So I was like, right, okay, well, that's a bit odd, because surely if it's about the emotional response, then surely that would translate into not just a picture on a wall. Surely that would translate into the bigger picture of encompassing all of art. So I had to look a bit further afield. So I started looking at sculptures.
Yeah.
Now I found a couple. But mainly they're in graveyards, strangely enough.
Okay.
Now, oh my goodness me. Where's me work? In America, you gotta love America.
Yeah, if you have to.
Well, you kind of do. You know, it was around to say, trying to find it. Again, I have to argue the psychological side of this. Straight away, you're in a graveyard.
You know what? I totally agree. Your mind goes to spooky places anyway as soon as a graveyard's mentioned.
First of all, you've got the graveyard dead people.
If they're dead, they're not going to hurt anybody.
Graveyard skeletons.
Yeah.
You know, you think of Halloween, all these things are used as scare factors. So again, part of your scare psyche. You know what I mean? If you're
Scare meter. There you
your
go.
scare meter. They're sort of like hitting a bit higher, aren't they?
Yeah.
But you can't deny some of the carvings and the statues that are in some of these graveyards are beautifully carved, and they're phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I found a couple of cases. Now, I want to talk to you about this one. This one is a little racy. It's kind of what I mean. Called Witch Bonnie.
Okay.
I don't know quite how you'd say it. Now, this is of a woman whose arms are outstretched on a rectangular tomb, and her hands clutch a veil that sort of seems to fall down behind her body, and she's got eye sockets that are like just staring at the sky. But where the weathering is done, it looks like she's crying black tears.
Okay.
So you can imagine this is like conjuring up a bit of a picture already, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can give me nightmares tonight.
Yeah, I know. I do like to give you nightmares. Her dress is toga style, and it's sort of like falling off both shoulders. Now, it's exposing the upper part of her breasts.
Okay.
Okay, so, from an angle. Now, this is like one of these stories in the area this is actually in Cambridge, in America. MA, I don't know which county, state.
I don't know what.
Massachusetts?
Yeah, MA. Massachusetts, it could be.
Something like that. Right, now, there is a local legend that her dress gets lower and lower until her breasts are fully exposed on October 31st. Pure ghost story stuff going on here, isn't it? Imagine all the kids in the local area going, the naked lady. You know what I mean? With her breasts. However, the whole area has got a huge Wicca tradition.
Okay.
Okay, and they leave offerings and congregate there every Halloween. So again, think of the scare factor.
Isn't Salem in Massachusetts?
Funny you should say that.
Okay.
Because one of the local storytellers explained that she was a mill girl that was employed by an industrial revolution, or that she was a witch who was hanged during the Salem witch trials.
Ah, so I'm psychic. Or I just read your research. Yeah, carry on.
Well, down. You just quickly Googled Witch Bonnie, didn't you?
No, I didn't. No. Do you know what? It might surprise you, but I do know some stuff.
Now, what is strange about this is not so much the activity that occurs, but it is very high profile in the local area. For the scare factor. So you want to go and scare meter, it goes right up into the thing, particularly around Halloween. It's like one of those, but we have one locally to us, don't we, Paul, called Canewden
yes,
Church,
indeed.
where everyone seems to need to go on Halloween and scare themselves silly with it.
I've actually investigated inside the church as well. Fascinating evidence come out of that. But
I was lucky enough to do that as well. Anyway, going back to old Witch Bonnie, or however you want to say it.
Yep.
What is interesting about this is paranormal. It doesn't state who. It just says paranormal experts measure inexplicably high electromagnetic fields only around the statue.
Is this before or after she's exposed?
I would think that's whenever, because I doubt very much if she exposes herself. I think it's probably more optical illusion, depending on light, I would say, on that one.
Yeah, I tend to agree, but still got to be seen, isn't it? Seen to be believed.
Well, I'll be sending you to Massachusetts on October the 31st just to see if this statue exposes her bosoms.
That sounds fine to me. I can cope with that. Nice holiday.
I know. What's Paul doing? It's just out seeing if this statue exposes itself to it. I'll be like, what? I mean,
well, that's what you'll be thinking. I'm on holiday then.
You're actually on holiday going to Salem Con.
Yeah.
I'll be like, you're supposed to be in the churchyard.
Kill two birds with one stone and all that. Yeah.
So, the other sort of artwork that was coming up, really, was more like artifacts.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like all sorts of bits and bobs, like, haunted objects more than art. I would say, which does lead me to the poppet factor, where you're supposed to be able to, allegedly, everybody, we know it's true, but allegedly, put an intention, like a voodoo doll, yeah? An intention into an object to have an effect.
But I suppose technically that's a bit of a cultural art, isn't it?
It crosses many cultures, though.
Yeah. But it would be an early form of artwork.
Well, yes, in two minds on this, because you can create a puppet with a specific intention. That's not artwork at all. That is pure spell work.
Right.
Yeah. And that's well known throughout the history of witchcraft today.
Yeah. Still
goes on to this day. I know that there was even a case of a puppet made from a Barbie doll.
Really?
Believe it or not.
Okay. Did it affect the Barbie lookalike?
Don't know. That was found. It was a found object, but it was clear what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But, you know, with these puppets, very rarely you're able to track the story from them. You know what I mean? Like from the reason why somebody wanted to make the puppet through to the effect it had on a person. Very rarely can you find that storyline. You find the puppet, you can generally tell what the puppet's supposed to be depicting.
Yeah. But again, you wouldn't know the intended target either, would you?
No, like I say, the storyline throughout the creation through to the effect, you're not going to trace, because effectively it's a generally not nice form of witchcraft.
Yeah.
You can do it for a positive effect as well, like a healing or a fertility thing. You can make them for those kind of intentions as well. You don't have to make them to stab with pins.
No.
It's not as dramatic as the old Witches of Eastwick puppet. But those that I wouldn't say that. I would not class that as art, because I would say that's pure spell work.
Yeah, indeed.
You know what I mean? But when you look at artifacts going back, there are certain artifacts that are a little strange.
Okay, like what?
The Bassano vase, and this is a carved silver vessel dating from Italy in Italy. And again, there's a whole legend surrounding this vase. It was supposed to be a wedding gift of a young bride living in a northern village near Napoli, who, for reasons unknown, was actually murdered on the very night of her wedding. Now, in true romantic fashion, she clasped said vase in her dying moments and, said she was going to seek revenge. Yeah, like vengeance. Now, this vase passed from family member to family member. And guess what happened to those family members?
I don't know. Nothing.
They died one by one.
Well, that's not natural as well, isn't it?
Again, you've got to, the traceability of the story. They're going to die at some point, but whether or not those were from natural causes or unnatural causes, it's not stated in the story. So it is sort of like a legend that surrounds it. If you actually looked into coldly, it could be they all died at the age of 90 in their beds.
Well, that's where I was going, really.
Yeah, but anyway, they all died, and then it disappeared it disappeared until 1988, when it was unearthed again. Now, it does contain the message, beware, this vase brings death. But no one listened. So next to die were a pharmacist, a surgeon, and an archaeologist. How they got linked to this vase, God only knows, because, again, that's not stated. It could just be some random pharmacist or surgeon or archaeologist. There must have been a link or an ownership of the vase, to be fair.
Yeah, I would have thought so, just named in that story.
Yeah. Exactly, but it doesn't actually say in this story. It say this story wasn't very good on detail. Anyway, someone got the idea and clicked on that could be the vase that's at fault here. Threw it out of a window. It nearly hit a policeman on the head. Nearly. If it was that cursed, surely it would have hit the policeman and killed him instantly.
Yeah.
But it didn't. It nearly. Anyway.
That's because he didn't own it.
Well, the owner refused to take it back. Got done for disorderly behaviour, and then every museum refused to take it to add to their collection. He tried to give it away to a museum, and nobody would have it.
Yeah.
And No one knows where it is at this point in time. However, we say no one knows where it is. There is a photograph of it.
Okay. And what happened to the people that own the photograph?
Doesn't say.
Okay.
Doesn't say.
They end up in hospital.
Doesn't say. It just says to the bare bones of what the story said, babe. You know, there ain't no more than that.
You're best to delete the photograph now.
Yeah, you know, don't go near the photograph. But yeah, you know, again, it's a lovely little legend, a lovely little folklore that's grown up around an artifact. That it's almost like it's a scary meter thing, isn't it? You know, there's no real detail, there's no real names, there's no verifiable facts. So you kind of have
it's more of an urban legend, isn't it? I think
it does. It turns into an urban legend, really, with it, and that's what you find with a lot of these things. They're all like urban legends that take on a mind of their own, and then that's where you go, okay, so is it the actual object, or is it just the psychological effect of the folklore myth, urban legend that's grown up around it, in exactly the same way as that statue in Massachusetts.
Or could it just be a coincidence that everyone that's owned it has had the misfortune to die when they're 90s, you know?
As I say, and it would be really interesting to actually follow that story or look into that story a lot more in depth and get names, dates, times, consequence of death, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity more than anything else, to be fair.
I suppose it'd be the same sort of incidents as like the Crying Boy painting.
Yeah, that was the Sun who caused all that one, the newspaper.
Yeah, wasn't it fires or something? That was
there was inexplicable fires, and apparently the only thing that was being found of a whole gutted house was the Crying Boy painting, usually face down. And there've been a couple of incidences, and then the Sun got hold of the story. There was obviously a quiet week in the world
Media.
news, and had heard about this, made a big deal out of it, and it blew up into a whole media circus, shall we say, about the Crying Boy paintings. Now that again, a whole myth or urban legend has surrounded the origin of those crying boys. And the Sun did an armistice with it, and if you've got a crying boy painting, send it to us, we'll burn it for you. And apparently they were really hard to burn, but that all came down to the preservation varnish that was used on these particular paintings. And again, it's a whole mass, almost a hysteria thing. I mean, that hit back in the 70s, didn't it? It's a hysteria thing. And it's a psychological trigger. So, God, if, you know, we're going to have a fire. When you look at the electrics in the 70s, it probably wasn't that big a deal.
No.
That's not the word. Big a deal isn't the word. Unexpected thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
But look at how the media drove that. Look at how that got driven by a media hysteria. And media is very, very good at that.
They are, especially now, even, with the social media aspect.
You've only got to look every year. There'll be a new killer virus.
Yep.
There'll be always a threat of the end of the world.
Always.
Or a war, World War III. We're doing, there's always going to be that scaremonger factor that whip people up into a frenzy from the media. It's got worse. Every year it seems to get worse and worse. I don't read newspapers now for that very purpose. And they're either scaremongering the hell out of you with stuff, and I'm not saying stuff isn't going on that you should be aware of. They're either scaremongering the hell out of you, whipping up emotive, subjects which create dissent between people and make you focus not on the important things but on the lesser important things, or it's all celebrity dribble, quite frankly.
No, I totally agree with that.
Who's put £2 on and, oh my God, they've ballooned. You know what I mean? So when you look at the media effect on these kind of subjects, including the paranormal, you've only got to look at how paranormal activity is reported in the media. it's so sensationalised, it's untrue, never looked at in a critical, not critical, sceptical manner, with a good, balanced, two-sided argument to it. It's like, oh, you know what I mean? So when you start looking at it in that way, and a lot of the Crying Boy is a prime example of this, I feel.
Yeah.
Even to this day, everyone goes, oh, God, I have one of those. You know what I mean? Plenty of people have still got them and not had a fire, and everything's been tickety-boo,
Yeah.
you know? So I find those kind of media hysteria-driven cases very unbelievable.
No, I do agree though that I think especially with the Cry Boy, as you said, it was more of a media-driven exposure, I think, rather than anything else. I mean, I'm sure there's billions of copies of that photograph, and only like 4 had been in a fire. You know? So it's like
It's enough for people to, for the Sun to have picked it up.
Yeah.
It was obviously enough. But like I say, look at the electrics back in the day. Let's be honest. They're not to the standards we have now in our houses.
No.
You know, look at the materials that were around the house. That we didn't have the fire retardant materials that we have these days. You know what I mean? That's the sort of thing I think. And if you've got a painting that's got a fire retardant varnish on it, which would have been a little unusual, but that's what I think with that one.
I mean, one of the big stories when I was a kid, it was London bus found on Mars or something.
Wow. Did they have Photoshop back in them days?
Do you know what? They probably did. Yeah. It was fun. Definitely.
Now, I do want to bring up, I know we didn't really want to go on to paintings. I did find one that I found incredibly interesting. And I'll tell you why I found it quite interesting, because it's actually in the Royal Holloway College at the University of London.
Okay.
Now, bearing in mind, right, it's a university, so you would think that rational and logical thinking is probably more on the table and than hauntings and the effects a painting can have on people.
Yeah, you would have thought,
you would think so. Now, the painting is called Man Proposes, God Disposes by Sir Edwin Landseer. And it actually is a painting that shows the crew of the Arctic expedition led by Sir John Franklin being devoured by ferocious polar bears. Also good so far, yeah. Not a particularly scary painting, maybe not particularly nice, but, it's a historical moment, should we say. Okay. Now, this painting in particular is supposed to drive students mad or make them fail their exams. Okay. Now, the painting is actually hanging in the hall where they take these exams. So it's a little bit of an issue.
Well, yeah, you would have thought, they would have it there for one.
Well, they haven't moved it, but they have bowed to this little bit of a worry over this painting. They cover it with the Union Jack in the days leading up to and during an exam. So whenever an exam's in there, it will always be covered up.
Yep.
And there is a famous story surrounding this particular thing. The one student became so upset in the exam that she was driven. I love this. Again, if you want a media sensationalism, this is pure. I quote this. One student became so utterly and hopelessly upset by the painting that she was driven stark raving insane.
Dun dun dun.
And allegedly she killed herself right there at her desk in front of everyone. I'm not saying she didn't have a psychotic meltdown for the pressure of the exams and then killed herself. No, it was because of this painting.
Yeah, makes sense.
You would think, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But again, this gives you a little indication of the sensationalism of media reporting on a particular instance that happened in regards to this painting. So now, it's not surprising that anybody goes, oh, painting, make sure that's covered over before we do an exam. It's going to drive you mad, Days. It'll drive you mad. Not the pressure of the exam or the course or the, moment. pivotal moments in an exam. I fail
Well,
every exam.
they need to try harder. That's what they need.
Well, whatever it was, this poor girl allegedly got driven insane, but it got blamed on this painting, believe it or not.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you're going to blame someone, why not?
And it's not like a painting like the Hand kind of painting, which is kind of a freaky painting. So I wouldn't say it had the psychological triggers to make you go insane on the spot, personally. But that, you know, I mean, I've seen the painting and it's, yeah, I mean, it's big, you know, it's all right. I wouldn't even say it was scary. I would just say it's all right. The polar bears don't look very friendly. Yes, they have just killed somebody, but you know, it's not the point. It's not one I would look at and I'd go, oh, you know, okay, it's not very nice, but I wouldn't. Whereas I look at something like the Hands Resist Them painting, creepy. You know what I mean? There is a difference, but I certainly wouldn't say that the painting would send me utterly insane. But then I've not had the pressure of sitting an exam at a university.
Yeah. So what do you think about cursed items?
I have a belief system in place in regard to cursed items.
Okay.
Which I'm fully aware of.
Okay.
Only because of how I work in certain ways. I believe you can have an object and can put an intention on an object to have an effect on people. But that's a belief system. I'm fully aware of it.
Okay.
And there are many objects through history that are alleged to
like the vase, for example.
Oh, I don't know about that one so much. But you've only got to look at what's it called? There's a museum, a travelling museum in America.
Okay, I don't know.
Oh gosh, it's gone straight out of my head. But they have many artefacts, and they come across a wooden statue, effectively, that had nails driven through the eyes. And then when it was removed from the area, they had nothing trouble with it. Even to this day, they have trouble surrounding this, and they've done all sorts of tests on it. But they have to ask permission before they do any test on it. Otherwise, something will go hideously wrong.
Okay. I remember years ago going to a Ripley's, believe it or not, and they had a statue there that the idea was if you touched their stomach, the females, if a female touched his stomach, they would become pregnant. And I was actually with someone that had trouble conceiving, and they touched his stomach, and then within a few months after that, they had one of their first children.
Well, that's similar to, if you think of the artwork that's carved in the chalk in Kent, the Old Man of Wilmington, is it?
I don't know.
It's the chalk figure of a man with a club in his hand. He's supposed to be a fertility thing, and people are supposed to sit on him. Not in that way, you understand.
I'd say that'd be quite difficult because it's a massive drawing in the pitch in the field, isn't it? I don't know the one you mean.
It's on the side of a hill, isn't it?
Yeah. I thought that was the way to Cornwall and Devon that way, but okay. I don't know.
It could be. I thought it was in the chalk cliffs in Kent, but I could be wrong. I know it's on a hillside carved into chalk, basically. And that's supposed to be a fertility
somewhere
thing,
in England.
Somewhere in England, southern England, somewhere.
It is. And that's sort of the opposite of a curse. Well, I suppose it depends on what way you look at it. If you don't want kids, it's a curse.
No, it is the Old Man of Wilmington.
Yeah. So it's interesting subject though, all round.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
It really is, and the amount of stuff to look to is just. Yeah.
It covers a whole realm, doesn't it? Like I said right at the beginning, artwork covers such a massive area, because even if you look down to architecture, I mean, some of the churches and some of the, even we touched on graveyard architecture and graveyards. I mean, just you've only got to look at Highgate you know, for artwork, if you want to look at physical artwork, it's architecture, but it's a pure piece of creativity. You know what I mean? When you start looking at it, just so you know, the Old Man of Wilmington is on the South Downs in between New Haven and Eastbourne.
Okay, so it's that, yeah. It's slap bang in the middle of where we said it was.
Basically.
Yeah. Well, we would have got there in the end.
Yeah, we would have. I had to quickly Google, just like I said, I did have to quickly Google that to check where it was in the world. But, you know, it covers a whole range, but that would have been artwork back in the day. Yeah,
it would. And, I mean, it depends. I don't know, when was it created?
I don't know, Paul. When was it created?
I don't know. You said you just Googled it, so it should be on there somewhere.
Location I Googled, not history.
Well, when it was created, yeah, I'm sure it would have been artwork.
Yeah, like cavemen used to draw on the walls, didn't they, with pigments.
And the circles in the crops, the crop circles. All artwork.
No, that is a man. Oh, God.
Artwork.
I can't believe you're bringing aliens into it.
No, I'm not. I'm not bringing aliens into it whatsoever. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
You've been working with Mark too long.
I have. I see aliens.
No, I see crop circles as artwork. They're not aliens. They're man-made. They're art, and I think they look quite good.
I think some of them are astonishing.
They are. So there you go. It's artwork.
But again, that's a whole new topic, isn't it? Crop circles.
No, it's artwork.
So you've got men with flatboards walking around cornfields in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and Mark's got aliens.
And Mark's got aliens coming down with their aircraft and
with their flatboards and walking around.
Flatboards and, little greys doing that instead of humans doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
But balls of light have been seen as well as they've been created. All sorts of things. People will jump to assumptions in all kinds of ways to fit with their theory.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, some of this is what, when people talk about activity surrounding artwork in general, I do think there's that leap of assumption rather than try and find a logical explanation, possibly, like looking at the one that's in the university, the pressure that's put on the woman. They've jumped automatically to the assumption that it's that gory painting up on the wall. You know what I mean? It's like, nah.
Yeah. I
find it very interesting, though. But going back to where we started in the show with your case, I would not discount the factor of the artist state of mind when they're creating either. I can sit here and sort of, come up with logical explanations all day long, but I have a belief system in place. I do actually think you can set an intention into an object. I do think that you go into that kind of mindset when you're creating a piece of artwork or intention work, and I have done it. So,
yeah.
I've gone very logical tonight and very psychological and all that sort of stuff. But whatever it is in action while somebody's creating, I do think you are releasing your mind from the logical, from the day-to-day, you're releasing your mind into the creativity and the intuition and the intention side of things. Who knows what that unlocks?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Go with that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And we've got 6 minutes of the show left. So do you want to go through what we've got coming up for the rest of the week?
Yeah, I can do. Now, we have turned the tables on a presenter on a different radio station for tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Ooh. Sean Cadman has got Tom Warrington into the studio.
Awesome.
Him. So he's turning the tables. He's actually going to be interviewing Tom. So that's going to be interesting to see what old Tom comes out with.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that one. Followed by Haunted Histories at 9 p.m. Penny has got Jay and Teresa in the studio. They're talking about the Rhodes Hotel and the history, the haunting surrounding the Rhodes Hotel. And I know that Jay and Teresa have investigated the Rhodes Hotel quite a lot. Yes, Ashley, Sign meets magic. On Thursday evening, the Spectral Zone with our very own Kaz Rooney. Don't forget, it's Kaz's birthday on Thursday.
Awesome. We'll all be there. Happy birthday, Kaz.
Yes, we will. We'll all be there in the chat room because you're talking rock stars and the paranormal.
Awesome.
Trust me, this is the first of a two-parter because it is such a huge topic.
I want to know when Buddy Holly's coming back.
He's hardly rock.
He rock and roll, tell you. It's awesome.
Well, I don't think she's going to be covering Buddy Holly somehow. Not for the conversation I was having with her. Think Iron Maiden. I was throwing out, fluffy kind of people. And she's going, no.
Is she going today?
She's going like Metallica, that kind of thing. So it's a two-parter anyway.
Heavy rock.
Yeah, David Bowie, all those kind of people. We had a 3-hour conversation on this one night. Jimmy Page, she's just put in the chat room.
Okay.
That's more, but it is a two-parter, and I'm sure she'll cover all the the well-known as well as the heavy rock.
Fantastic.
She's joined by Sean Cadman and Michael Hodges on Thursday night, celebrating her birthday, so she'll probably be a little drunk as well. And on Friday evening, we've got the Great Paranormal Debate.
Yeah, we should have.
Woohoo! And at the Dark Mirror Show, where we are covering the Easter story, and we've got Jamie Crashnight in the studio with us as well.
Okay, awesome.
And then on Sunday evening, on the Spirit Dimension, I have, and with Claire, obviously, I've got Steve Ward and Ashley Mortimer, and we're going to be tracing we're looking at the themes that run concurrently through, like Christianity and mythology, and then going into, I can never say this, Kabbalism. Is that how you would say that? I think I said it better tonight than I did on the live feed.
I think so.
Cannibalism on the live feed, the Kabbalah, and how that leads into the occult as well.
Awesome.
So that's going to be thank you, Ashley. That's going to be an absolutely fascinating show. Claire's like, oh my God. I was like, I know. It's all right. They know what they're talking about. We're just like, off you go, lads. I mean, you will sit back and let them talk. They're two really old friends, and they class themselves as the old donkeys as well.
Okay.
So you might have a little insight into how Ashley Mortimer and Steve Ward talk about their donkey theory, which, trust me, I've had this donkey theory. It's very funny. So, that's what we're going on Parasearch this week. And it's a full moon on Saturday.
Ooh. Awesome. We get our stones out then.
You get your what's out?
Your stones.
No, you get your what out?
Yeah, your stones.
Oh,
I'm not going to say rocks because that means something completely different.
Crystals, everybody. You get out. Okay, so you can don't forget to cleanse them first and then charge them on Saturday night.
I'll put mine in the dishwasher and then chuck them outside to dry.
Yes, everybody in the chat room's got crystals, Paul. Crystals. You, on the other hand, can't seem to manage that, can you? No.
I know, it just winds you up, so I think it's amusing.
Years, everybody, years he's been doing this to me. So it's a really full week. We've got an absolutely massive week this week, and of course it's Easter. Yeah,
and don't forget our competition.
Oh my God, don't forget the competition. We have 2 tickets to Shepton Mallet on the 6th of April. All you have to do is go onto the Parasearch Radio group page on Facebook, like, share if you love us, and comment. Don't forget to comment on it, guys, if you want these tickets. And we're going to be drawing that. When are we drawing it?
Next Tuesday.
Week? Yeah, next Tuesday. So we hopefully will have people to win the 2 tickets.
I'll do it. I'll share it about and stuff.
Yeah, too right. 2 tickets to Shepton Mallet Prison.
And then I can win tickets.
This is a short-term investigative location. Don't do it all the time. Always available to investigate.
Yep, and we'll get you to do a lone vigil as well.
Yeah, lone vigils. Ooh, in a prison.
Yeah. You're locked in a cell and run away.
Don't. No one will apply. ain't doing that.
It's gonna be so scary. We're gonna lock you in a haunted cell, and then we're gonna run away because not even I'm gonna want to be there.
Everybody, yeah, that's a way to sell those 2 tickets, isn't it? Competition. So, Paul, what are we talking about next Tuesday?
Oh, I don't know. What are we talking about next Tuesday? I can't. Isn't it the Roman gods week?
Oh, yes, I think you might be right.
We were going to be talking about the Roman gods. Absolutely.
You do pick some topics, don't you? Actually,
I
you're wrong.
love the Roman gods. What?
You're wrong.
What is it then? What's next week?
We're talking all about the gin next week.
Oh, that's close enough though. It's sort of that era.
Oh my god! So professional. What are we talking about next week? I ain't got a clue. It's a bit like the Dark Mirror show. We go, what we doing next week? I don't know. I'll choose a topic in the week. We'll see. We'll see what we do.
Yeah, we like surprising you. So we're going to talk about gin next week. How many bottles you go through and stuff like that, yeah?
And how many flavours I can try in one night.
Oh dear. No, that'd be quite a good show. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And I'll write a book all on them later.
You might what?
I might write a book on them later.
About the gin?
Yeah.
Do it after the show. It'll be well tested out by then.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, so thanks everyone for being in the chat room tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. It's been as good as ever.
Of course. It's because it's me and you, baby.
That's it. Yeah. We're awesome together. So yeah, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from me.
Good night and stay safe, everybody. Have a good week.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.